In the late 80s and early 90s, my office was directly and physically connected to Dennis Prager's office. Yes, that Dennis Prager of PragerFU infamy. Go Devils! He paid my rent, and I produced his quarterly newsletter called Ultimate Issues. We were good friends back then. We played racquetball several times a week. I was routinely invited to the house for Shabbat dinners, Passover, the bris of his newly adopted son, etc. And we had many mutual friends. Working there changed my life in some very substantial ways. Growing up Mormon, my life was extremely provincial. I was certain of my religion's correctness, though I'd never really looked into the others. So being around intelligent, articulate people of other faiths and hearing them capably defend their beliefs both surprised and intrigued me. Believe it or not, I learned critical thinking there as well. Much of that was done on my own, but Dennis is a very good polemicist and offered insights I continue to value, one of which was always know the other side. He said that when you know the other side, you'll be better equipped to respond, or you'll find out you were wrong initially. There's no downside either way. I came to embrace that ideal. So when Dennis encouraged me to write a book about God from the Mormon perspective, I was still a Mormon at the time, I soon realized that I really didn't know the other side. I had what I thought were some really good arguments for my belief in God, but I'd never really heard, listened to, or seriously considered that other side. So one morning I finally went down to my local public library and checked out a book called The Atheist Debater's Handbook by B.C. Johnson. After the first few chapters, I knew I was in trouble. At the end, I called Dennis in a panic, looking for someone to rescue me from the abyss into which I was now staring. I've told this story before, but basically it soon became clear to me that Dennis had never really looked at the other side either. He seemed confused by the nomenclature, which, after just one book, I understood should have been familiar to anyone actively engaged in the topic. At the very least, I could see that Dennis was prepared to embrace arguments I now found defective, and the emotion he put into that discussion helped me understand why. I backed off because I could see how uncomfortable the conversation was becoming for him. And the last thing I wanted at that time in my life was to destroy his faith too. I came to him because the last thing in the world I wanted was to become an atheist, and I thought he could help me find my way back. But he couldn't. As the years went on, he and I remained friends, though I moved out of the office and started working from home after my daughter was born, so we didn't see each other very much from that point on. But we kept in touch and emailed each other periodically. We even sparred a bit when I heard him say things on the radio that I felt demanded another perspective. Dennis even loved the early Mr. Deity episodes. We eventually had a falling out over the way he treated a mutual female friend and what I came to see as his obvious misogyny. But the strangest thing to me, given the 15 years of friendship that continued after I became an atheist, was his utter lack of curiosity. There I was, a good friend whose intelligence was evident to him, he'd told me so, and whose thinking skills he admired. I'd gone from playing on his team to playing for the opposition, and aside from that initial conversation, he showed absolutely no interest in finding out why, or even trying to have me reconsider. Perhaps I was born with this, but I have never wanted to be a part of or believe something more than I've wanted to know the truth. It's inconceivable to me that someone I know in the community, Aaron Ra, Seth Andrews, Richard Dawkins, would suddenly embrace faith without a call, text, or email from me, trying at the very least to understand, if not persuade. I would definitely want to know what I was missing from their new perspective. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Dennis and I ended up on different sides of the coin, and I know how arrogant and self-congratulatory that can sound. But maybe that genuinely is one of the ways life divides us up, into those who want to know and those who don't. They say that facts are stubborn things. They definitely are for some. But nothing is quite so stubborn as a person who doesn't want to know. And I suppose that's even more true when that person has alternative facts to fall back on. For PragerFU, I'm me. Thanks for watching. Nothing's as important as enlightening, humorous content. And with once weekly Patreon-supported Wellbritron XL, you'll get that and so much more. And I think it's nice that there's a low risk of sexual side effects.
Wellbritron XL effectively delivers enlightening, humorous content with a low risk of sexual side effects.
You'll feel great laughing again, all while life-enriching insights come at you left and right. Well, maybe just from the left.
Wellbritron XL is not for everyone. There's a risk of seizure-like laughter when taking Wellbritron. This risk can increase if you've recently left your religion or consumed large amounts of marijuana. Don't use if you've recently stopped thinking clearly or are offended by religious or political satire. Be careful when mixing Wellbritron with libertarianism, magical thinking, or regular doses of PragerFU, which can increase blood pressure, sometimes severely. To reduce the risk of serious side effects, tell your cognitive advisor of any deficiencies in cognitive function or sense of humor. If religious, contact a secular advisor if you begin to have thoughts of apostasy, dancing, or sexual liberation. Don't stop taking Wellbritron abruptly, as that may lead to extreme mood swings and frequent urination.
Once weekly Patreon-supported Wellbritron, humorous, enlightening content with a low risk of sexual side effects.
Go to patreon.com/Mr. Deity to find out about once weekly Wellbritron XL. You'll laugh, you'll think, you'll feel better.
And so will I.